All right. And I was going to bring shyness. I didn't know if you were going to drink today. I'm like, I should bring it, and I forgot, and then I got caught in traffic.
That's okay. No worries, because I actually have been cutting back.
Okay.
Yeah, so. But if we have to do another follow-up, I look forward to it.
There we go. All right, so I am here with Susana Morell, and I've interviewed her once, and I'll put the link down below to her other interview. And after the interview, we were sitting and talking, and you told me something that you had a challenge that Susana, your challenge is, I have to believe, incredibly unique. Like I've never met anyone who had that challenge. I bet there were no kids within your school growing up with this challenge. And then here you are today, a success where, again, that's why I love doing these stories. A lot of times something like this would affect someone the rest of their life, and you could see all the negative stuff that has happened, and then you track it back to this one original challenge. But so number one, tell people about your challenge that you were born with, and then let's talk about how you dealt with it as a kid and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was born without a left ear. Well, it was like a little nub. And so I can't even imagine what that must have felt like. They tell my mom, your child is fine. She was resting, so she didn't get to see me immediately. And they told my dad, and my dad didn't know how to take it and how he would. Then they said, please let your wife know that she was born with a nub of a left ear. It's for whatever reason it didn't form.
But was there a canal we can hear?
No, I cannot hear it through. No.
Okay.
Yeah. So, my dad was in shock, and he was trying to find his words, and he couldn't. And by the time he was going to tell my mom, they were bringing me in, and my mom holds me, and she's looking at me, and she saw my left side, and she threw me. And so on the bed, of course, thank goodness I was okay, but then they had to give her an injection because she went into shock.
Wow.
And so I can't even imagine. You're excited and you're told one thing, but then you're kind of force-fed to say, but you said my daughter was okay. What is this?
Yeah.
And so through the years, they had said maybe it was linked to she was older, so she was 42. When she had me, it could have been that she was older. It could have been a numerous things, right?
Yeah.
And so she always felt responsible for, like, that's not fair. This child is going to have to go through skin grafts, going to have to go meet specialists, and that was my life. So in school, I never really could participate like I would have wanted to because I was always going through some type of procedure. And it was very difficult.
So some type of medical procedure? So as you
yeah,
grow up?
so they always knew the goal was by the time I was 12, they wanted to do the major surgery. So I had many surgeries early on, from as little as 3 months, a year, 4 years. Through the years, they would go in and they would try to figure out how they were going to maybe, help to do cosmetic surgery and form something. You can't be left with just nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so and it takes time because as the child is growing, your body's changing.
Yeah.
So 12 to 14 was the goal of, then that's when we'll come in and we'll do the major, form the surgery through the cosmetic procedure.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, elementary, junior high, but I really want to focus on elementary, there were a few kids that knew about it. I guess maybe when you're doing the hearing test in school.
Well, hold on. So how did they not? Did you have your hair was long?
Yeah, my hair would be long. My hair
Okay.
would always be long, and I remember I was always self-conscious. I'd always have my hair in my face, right?
Yeah.
And I remember one time we were in line to do the hearing test, and the nurse said, "Oh, this is Susie. My maiden name's Morales. Susie Morales. She only has one ear." So then a student heard that, and then the rumor started that I only had one ear.
Oh, man.
So then one day after lunch, and my best friend at the time was very protective of me. She knew, and so she was very protective of me. And we were playing ball, I remember that, and she went after the ball, and then that one student, you have that one bully that just loves to just, make you feel horrible because it makes them feel powerful. He pinned me up against the fence and lifted my hair and brought a crowd to like, look at the freak, look at this, you know.
Oh my God.
And so I think from then on, it is such a, like a, it robs you of so many things, of your dignity, of feeling like just not a part of something, left out. Like I always knew that, you know, I was different, but when others see you different, oh, it just makes you feel like you're playing catch up your whole life.
And how old again were you when that
And
happened?
when that happened, I was 9.
Oh my
I was
God.
9 when that happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So of course, there had to be there was a big conference with his parents. My mom was outraged. My mom wanted to, you know, put him on the cross, and because she saw how I kind of like, I think that was the beginning of me kind of becoming more reserved, and I would retract, and I never really bounced back from that until later in life. I think that just really scarred me, that it was like, oh my gosh, the secret's out.
Yeah.
I'm not, this is not the norm, and now everybody knows. And so it's really disheartening to have that experience. So then here I come to the years where I'm going to get closer to having the major surgery. I'm excited. Unfortunately, it cost a lot of money. You know, insurances will only cover so much. So what my mom did is she took like a huge part of her 401k to be able to, because she says if there's anything, any inheritance or anything I can leave her, is that I gave her an ear.
Yeah.
My older sister called my mom ignorant for depleting her 401k account, and had always held that resentment towards me, that how's it possible, like who's gonna know, it's not even that important. It was important to my mom.
Yes.
And so we found this great surgeon in Dallas, and he took on the case. And what they did is, it's amazing what the medical community can do, and cosmetic surgery. So my hat's off to them, because it changed my life. And what they did is they took part of my rib cage, and they used the natural bones and all skin cartilage, and they formed an ear. So this is what I have today.
Holy cow.
So I can wear my hair up, I can put on earrings.
This is how old? 13, 14?
I was 12 when this
12.
happened. And so when we're having the consultation, you know, he's drawing and he's showing me what he's going to be doing. Oh, I was over the moon. And my mom asked, can you make a canal? I want her to hear. And they said, we can, but we run the risk that if we strike any wrong nerve, she could be paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
And my mom says it's not worth it.
Right.
So as long as she has something,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that it's going to make her feel confident, make her feel like she doesn't have to be so retracted, and have distance with people,
Yeah.
that's the main goal. And so, you know, they start talking about procedure. I remember I started playing, because they're going into like the medical terms and how long and everything. This surgery was supposed to be between 14 and 18 hours. I was under anesthesia for 20 hours.
Oh my God.
12 years old. So I wake up and I felt like a train.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, I'll never forget, and my head is bandaged, and I feel like I look like the mummy, right? My head is bandaged, and I remember I tried to like kind of get up a little bit. Well, I was sore from my right side, because I had
Oh,
taken my
yeah.
rib.
Wow.
My left side, I can't turn, because I got to be really gentle with what's going on here, and my head is wrapped.
Yeah.
I couldn't go home. They had us stay there, because I'm going to have follow-ups. It got expensive to stay in hotels, so the social worker offered for my parents to stay in Ronald McDonald House. Never would have known what that was and what they offer. And so I've always just think that that's wonderful that programs like that exist. And maybe that's where the interest of giving back to the community initiated and started, because I'm really big on that.
Yeah.
And so being in the Ronald McDonald House, I got to be around other children that were going through different, similar situations. Not anything like mine, but, that they were having to, be with their family, but they needed to have follow-ups. And
Yeah.
just to be together as a family unit is important, right? And so once I got released and you head back home, then the healing starts of the recovery time of like, the bandages and making sure and everything. So I couldn't go to school for 9 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, so they would bring my homework home and they would make me do everything at home. And so it was a heck of a transition to get back into it. And then I get back to school. And of course, everybody knows why you were out. Everybody knows everything, and everybody wants to see. And you're just kind of like, I'm not a freak show, And so, I remember 8th grade was probably the first time that I showed because I wanted to wear a pretty dress, and I did it back then. Late 80s. I'm showing my age, but late 80s. I think it was 1990. I'll never forget 1990. I wanted to wear my hair to the side, and what I did is she combed it this way, so my ear showed, and it was kind of like the debut of my ear. With my cute clip-ons because I didn't have my ears pierced, and my nice dress, and it was nice. It was nice to be able to get to that place. Yeah.
Now, all right, I want to ask you some things about the surgery itself, but I'm going to go back to prior to all of this. When you would go to school, well, you grew up in Houston or?
No, I grew up in McAllen, Texas.
Okay, Texas.
Border town.
So it's extremely hot during the summer.
Yes.
So a lot of times girls, you're outside, you pull your hair up, and you've never done that all those years. Would girls say to you, why don't you put your hair up? We'll all have our hair in ponytails.
Well, they didn't understand why, like, when I was at the Boys and Girls Club, why I'd have to wear, like, a cap, like the swimmer's cap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I wanted to swim, too. I wanted to do things, and I was just always told no, no, no. And then this is where a little part of my personality is like, well, but I was determined, but there's got to be another option. Like,
How come I don't get why you weren't allowed to swim without a cap? Because of all the surgeries you've had up until that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was always kind of like, everybody was very like sensitive and careful, and you can't do that, and you can't be out in the sun too long, and you can't do this. It kind of felt like I couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Holy cow. Okay, so now you're back in school. And you did the
reveal. Yes.
I'm imagining girls must have came over more than the boys, coming over and saying, "Hey, can I?" I mean, how?
Oh, just saying, a lot of support. Like my best friend, like it was just like, you look beautiful, and and you don't ever think anything less, and and you can't even tell, and so what if people stare? Like I'll be there to give them a good one. And so you just have to tell yourself, like, of course people are going to be curious, and I don't mind people being curious. Like today when I meet people, I have to tell them, I'm sorry, I don't hear from my left ear. Can I sit on this side so I can pay attention?
Yeah.
And then they'll ask, or sometimes they won't. That's enough for them. So I don't mind people being curious. What kind of takes it a difference between being curious and being like more like nosy about it?
Yeah.
Like then you kind of just then you know the difference. By now I know the difference. And
right.
Yeah, and so sometimes if I feel like I have to say something, I will, and if I don't, I just won't. And that's just where I prefer to sit.
Yeah. And again, it's a different. I mean, you're an adult now, but I imagine in school before all this. I mean, you told one story. There's got to be. Can you share any other stories? Because I'm thinking a parent may be watching this and their child may be going through something very hard. Your challenge is probably a much harder challenge than whoever's watching this, is my guess.
Yeah, I really wish that, it was heartfelt to see my parents struggle and I appreciated everything that they did for me. And they're no longer with me today, but I know that they're very proud of what I've accomplished and who I've become, despite feeling like, like I was less than, because it's not true,
right.
And so I would hope that parents would realize and to check in with their children when they have a delay or they have any type of deficit, or I couldn't even imagine, what does that feel like? Just ask.
Yes.
I wish somebody would have acknowledged that for me. Like I felt a lot of shame and guilt. Like I felt bad to say I felt hurt, or I felt like, why did I get the short end of the stick, or why did this have to happen to me? Like I felt bad for having those questions, but I wish I would have had a counselor to be able to work that through, because it was traumatizing.
Absolutely.
On so many levels.
Absolutely.
And not knowing who to trust. that's where my trust issues came in, because I didn't know, do you want to be my friend because you
Oh.
really care about me, or do you want to be my friend because you're eventually going to get a sneak peek at me, my ear that's not
Oh,
there.
yeah. I didn't think about that.
So
Wow.
it's very difficult when, and so that is one thing that I would just really highly suggest, that if your child is going through something, I know you want to be protective and you think like, I know that they can handle this, I know they're okay, but you can't see their heart, you can't see their hurt. So it doesn't hurt anything to put in that preventative measure and just have them go to talk to someone. Maybe they need it, maybe they don't, but they'll look back and say that you at least made that effort for them.
That's right. That's right. The same way you look back at your mom, what she did for you. That's really huge. Do you mind if I ask? We can cut this out. Do you talk to your sister anymore? Do you guys?
No, we never really had a close relationship. She's 13 years older than me, and I don't know why there was always like this feeling of like resentment, like they couldn't believe that they had another child. Like you should already have been fulfilled. You got your girl, you got your boy. Like what, what, because the first thing she said when she brought me home, because, back then they weren't doing sonograms,
Right. Right.
and so they didn't know what they were having. So my mom comes in, and like, just it's a little girl, and the first thing she said was, "Oh, great, I'm gonna have to share your jewelry with her."
Wow.
Instead of being excited. And there was
Right. A little
always
sister.
like, like she has said, that she loves me, and of course I cared for you, but didn't feel like it.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like it when your family's struggling because they're trying to do this great thing, and it's like, why do I have to struggle? I didn't ask for her to be born like that.
Right.
Certain things that I've heard or what was said, like that I don't think I deserved that.
No, you definitely. I mean, Susanna, absolutely not. What about parents? The opposite. You have parents that their kids, because the kids in school, the bullies, the teasers. What if they had what? I guess where I'm going with is it's their parents should be telling them you shouldn't be doing this way, you should act a certain way. Because there are going to be kids in school that are going to have challenges, going to be a little bit different.
Absolutely.
And then there's always jerks in school, kids who are bullies. And I think it always goes back to the parents. Like, the parents should be telling kids, whether they realize or not what's going on in school, to treat other people respectfully and things like
Yes, and this is why I say any child that doesn't have the ability to be raised in a healthy family dynamic being that they've got mom, dad, they have a stable home, that everything is, they're safe, they're secure, everything's good. You're very fortunate. Not a lot of kids have that. So my bully who put me on that, platform or totally embarrassed me, come to find out, didn't know who his biological father was. Mom was kind of in and out, revolving door, and grandma was raising him. Well, grandma's in her 60s, 70s, I want to say at that
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
elderly. So he didn't have no control of instilling morals and values. He's already feeling at a loss. And so how the way that he was able to, work on his wounds is by hurting others
Yeah.
and projecting that onto others.
Yeah.
And just got caught in that crossfire, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So what I would suggest for parents who realize, hey, dad is not around as he should be, or, mom isn't as nurturing as she should be, and dad notices this, or they lose a child loses a grandparent, or, something happens that changes the child, changes the relationships or the dynamic of the family, make sure you check in with that child, because they always feel that decisions are made without them, and they're forced into like new beginnings or moving. They're just forced, and they have the right. They're a part of the family to ask, how do you feel about grandma being gone now and that changing? How do you feel about me and dad divorcing? How do you feel about, we're going to have another baby? Because if not, what they do is they hold on to that resentment, and they harbor it, and it turns into hate.
Yeah.
And these people are walking around just being so nasty to others.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how they'll pick and choose. He knew to pick on me because I was quiet and I was just reserved, and I'm not a fighter. I have a big heart. I've always been so sweet and kind. He knew who he was picking on, because I can promise you, if I was, strong and I was the athletic girl and I could take him down, he wouldn't have picked on me.
Yeah, yeah. Or just speak up and yell at him back. Yeah,
So
yeah.
he knew my weakness.
Yeah.
And so that's what's so unfortunate. And then that's what scares kids to be vulnerable, because once they lose that trust, it's so hard to build that back up.
Yeah.
And so we have to reassure them. I know it feels like you've lost that safety net by dad passing away or mom passing away, but we want to reassure you you're going to be okay and get them that support. Build back up to that, because if not, they'll feel like they've got to raise themselves. They feel like they got to take care of things themselves, and they're going to mislead themselves, and there's no positive outcome from that.